So here on table one,
Yeah.
you got a fish limping and tie romper raising. This could be a pretty good spot to three bet bluff.
I
Um,
would, but he likes to flat three bet slot in position. So
okay,
I wouldn't put it past him to flat me there.
so you'd rather have king jack suited.
That I would be happy to three bet. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting spot because with a hand that's as strong as king jack suited, or as kind it's strong, but it's also like it's gonna have more strength just playing a multi-way pot with the fish. So it's kind of a maybe a give and take scenario where you if you're not gonna three bet like tie romper light, you're just gonna call tons of hands. Because you want the fish to call behind. That can be pretty good for you in some circumstances, but it prevents you from developing a dynamic with tie romper, which could eventually mean that he has a huge edge in this spot, um, and you're losing out on the overall edge of just the situation where one fishy player is limped and tie romper is raised. So it's tough to say whether calling or three betting is proper. But uh, if the fish is really bad, obviously you pretty much always want them in. But if you have to read that tie romper is going to be defending to your three bets re-steal here a ton, then you should kind of just treat tie romper like a fish himself, and just three bet for value to just kind of re-isolate him with his supposed weak range,
Okay.
and
That's a good one.
that's how you adjust to a person that's going to defend to a three bet really light. Even though the fish is in the pot, it's you're getting a lot of value versus Ty Romper's calling range, and there's a lot to be said for that value, especially when the fish isn't exactly throwing in piles of money post flop with like bottom pair or something like that. If you got like a read that they were that bad of a player, then you could resort to an always only calling of this isolation raise, which would be a fine unexploitative way to play because you're making your maximum value against the fishier player, and then the good player is still going to have a tough time playing against your really solid calling range. But yeah, when they're going to be calling really frequently, if you really believe that he's going to call frequently here, like 30% or so, like
Yeah. Well, one thing I've kind of been doing a lot lately is so say I had like king queen here, I might call and then if I hit the flop, basically just like donk to just try to isolate the fish. And I expect Ty to play very straightforward against me because my play looks exactly like it is. It's like I hit this flop, I want to put in money with the fish, so I don't feel like he'd screw around.
yeah, he's not going to like squeeze a hand that's like no pair, no draw or anything like that, trying to get a fish and a player that's representing strength, a good regular that's representing strength to fold. So it's a pretty good read that you can play straightforward against the fish. Once you're flopping, made hands or even like weak draws or overs or something like that. But
Yeah.
um, but also three betting king queen to $26 here and having Ty Romper call with ace four suited, and then c betting a flop and getting him to muck a fair bit of the time, or like just flopping a pair against a range of middle cards that could flop middle pair, or hands that can flop bottom pair, or like weak draws, gut shots, flush draws, or backdoor flush draws. Being able to flop top pair against those hands is going to get you a lot of value, and you're going to get your whole stack in a lot of the time versus someone that's a little bit of a dog to you.
Yeah. I was actually just gonna ask you about the size. I usually just do 24, but I think against someone who is probably uh flatting a decent amount, 26 is probably best.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well charge the maximum value. The way I see it is you're 3xing plus one big blind for the limper, and you could even make it 28 by adding an additional big blind because you're out of position. It would be a reasonable amount. Anywhere between 24 and 28 would be fine, but I think my preference would be 26, maybe
Okay.
27. But yeah, so in this spot you just muck, and I definitely would. It's okay to muck, but I would think that would be a pretty decent spot to three bet and see what he does in reaction to it.
Okay.
His isolation raise is going to be probably it could be with all playable hands. He might never limp there. It'd be a good spot to kind of check his stats and see if he limps behind a fish.
Okay.
It's going to be also be a lot of broadways and a lot of small medium pairs that are just trying to push out the blinds and get a pot heads up versus the fish. It also could just be like ace six high or ace queen high. So there,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to get the call of the three bet, and that was poorly played by the fish. A really great thing to do there would just be to take notes on both the players and how they played that hand. But because you're multi-tabling, again, you're missing out on that kind of value, the intrinsic value of paying attention, which can't be done when mass tabling. You're just gonna, you know, play a very straightforward style that doesn't adjust. Yeah, this is totally a reasonable three bet spot. Um, it's just applying pressure on his strategy, and his strategy is obvious, which is steal a lot for a small amount of money pre-flop. So yeah, ace ten suited or offsuit here. It could be a three bet or a call depending on how you think he's going to react to it. So I would say versus most people it'd be more of a call because they're folding ace nine offsuit, but they're calling ace jack offsuit. So you're really getting it in here. Or they're calling when you have them when they have you crushed, and you're getting them to fold everything that you have crushed. And that's kind of the spot for it. It's like it's kind of it's kind of interesting to note that people really love their like ace high hands, and having a slightly weaker ace high hand is not going to fare as well as even like king queen suited is stronger against calling range than ace 10 offsuit is in this particular situation
Okay.
against the average opponent's calling range. So, you know, doing this three bet, you should probably have a read here on the fact that they're going to call too often or they just fold tons.
It's really that I thought he would just fold a lot.
Yeah, and that goes with the same thing as the 6-8 offsuit hand that he just folds too much.
Yeah. And on table three, I don't, you saw me three bet Flyboy
Yeah,
with 10-6 suited on the button. I thought it was fine. He's opening a lot of hands.
yeah, I think it's great. It's a great spot to do it. Obviously, a good spot to have. I think that's a good spot to have a polarized range because people's calling ranges. It just sucks to be in that spot and have to call there. But because if you have a small pair or something, you're not liking it. If you have even high cards, you're not liking it.
Yeah.
Middle Broadway cards don't even like that. So you're getting tons of folds, and it's a great spot to expand your three bet. Is just button three betting to a late position raise.
So here, okay, here's where I make my mistake with the nines. I've got this guy's fold to C bet, or I mean
Fold C bet turn.
his C bet is like 90%, and his check raise is like 10%, or so, or
So he would check raise the nuts here,
yeah.
but he would.
So when he C bets, I'm like, oh well, he's got to be weak, but I'm not really thinking about it like, well, like I really don't have like I have a horrible hand to. It's basically a pure bluff.
You got
It
a gut
is,
shot to the low end.
yeah,
At
yeah,
the
and
once he calls the raise, yeah, you probably have to give up, but it could be worth two barreling.
well, my kind of what yeah, you'll see me like take a note on this after the hand, and I basically say that I think he ends up having Queen Jack here, yeah. And basically, so he's c-betting his like middle of the road hands, and then he's check raising his hands. He wants to basically
Get
like get
in.
in, yeah. So I think it could definitely be good to raise him, but not on a board like this because there's really no turns I like to bluff unless it's like a middle low diamond. Because
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you could raise here and then bet any non-king, non-jack, non-queen, non-ace. Yeah, if the I don't know. I think you could raise and then barrel. This is even a close spot to barrel because it does decrease your opponent's likelihood of having a
yeah, that's
king,
true.
but it depends on if you think that they're going to will how will they treat a jack to your raise and turn bet. I would bet that a lot of people would actually check fold queen jack here,
Yeah,
given his stack sizes and everything. But you know, you don't know exactly what he has. He could have king queen. He could have king nine. Sometimes king 10, king jack, ace king are probably hands that are sticking around. But again, the king lowers the chances of him having a king. And if you think that he will give you credit for having a king or better, then you could even rep this card. Otherwise, you could probably, if the seven of clubs came on the turn, I think it would be a great spot to barrel again. You actually
Yeah.
pick up a double gut shot. Ooh, even though both
I didn't think
the
about
the queen the
that.
queen would have been pretty crappy, but but you you get him
Or
to
an
hold
ace.
all of his one pair hands. I think when you raise the flop and bet the turn, and
Yeah.
given that your read that he check raises all the monsters, and the fact that you could easily have ace queen, I think you could two barrel on most turns. So I think you set yourself up for a pretty good turn barrel spot as long as you were ready to pull the trigger, which is always the
Yeah.
question. Because just raising that flop with pocket nines is not going to cut it. It's just it's a combination. It's a left hook right hook kind of play that you need to make there. You can't
Yeah.
just
I
because two barrels will narrow your opponent's range extremely. And given this read that you said about how they just don't even ever have a strong hand here, that means that their range will be narrowed to nearly nothing except for when they play a monster in a non-standard way for them.
Yeah,
So
I
so it's
completely
pretty
agree.
powerful.
One thing I kind of heard a video the other day was that always have like a plan. Like don't just like raise in the spot and not know what to do on the turn. Um, because then what happened to me is I did the play and then he called and I was like, wait, what? Like I thought he see that's all his weekends,
Yeah, you,
not
you just figured he would fold a lot, but this is the kind of board where like I think a lot of people like a lot of people would check fold like nines minus here rather than even bet them at all. I mean, maybe he's c betting them too much,
I
but I
mean
think a
his
lot of people that are betting this flop have flush draws, one
yeah.
pair, or straight draws.
His
Um,
c-bet is 90%, so
okay,
it's pretty much like always.
okay,
Because
then
I
yeah, I
think he
think
runs
the raise itself might almost show a profit there then, and then
he
combine that with a turn barrel. And I just did a video recently on EV trees where
yeah.
people's flop call is very wide, but their turn call narrows so much that that second barrel can be
Mm,
really powerful. And
okay.
this could have been the spot for it. But again, with the turn card being what it was, I think you made the right decision based on board texture to give up here, even though it is a close spot. But you raised knowing that is if you raise knowing this, then you raise knowing that on 85% of turns or something, you're gonna barrel again and put him in a really tough spot. You're probably gonna barrel every diamond, um, or almost every diamond at least. You're gonna barrel a lot of low cards, and
Yeah.
probably barrel even if the 10 pairs. Probably just not barreling an ace, probably not barreling a queen, and not barreling a king or a jack. So
Yeah.
that's probably about it. So you're
Yeah.
looking pretty
I
good as far as turn cards come.
yeah.